What a great morning we've already had. I mean, some great speakers, and I think what I take away from that, what I take away from all the conferences I come to, the service design conferences, is this sort of great inspirational energy that we have this huge opportunity in front of us as service designers, to change the world and all these things. And going back, actually, just reminding me about the Amsterdam conference and the Madeira conference, and sort of seeing this grow as a movement over time. And suddenly to find ourselves in this room like this, when before we were in these tiny rooms, talking about it in a very different way. And we've sort of grown up, and I feel like we've sort of come out of our early years, if you like. We've sort of been through puberty when we're sort of doubting who we are and who likes us and what's our purpose in life and all those sorts of questions. And we're kind of in our teenage years, I sometimes feel. And we're at that point, and I certainly had it when I was in my teenage years, when my dad sort of took me aside and said, so, what is it you're actually going to do? You're quite good at this drawing stuff, you're quite good at the writing stuff, but what are you going to do? You need to make some tough decisions so that you can get your career on the right track. And I kind of feel like we're in a similar place, actually, as an industry. And that's really why this title's up there, Go Deep or Go Home, because I think we need to make some big decisions. So I'm less about the inspirational stuff, that was this morning. I'm a little bit about telling you a story from my frontline experience the last 4 years, working in a big company that is not a design-led company by any means, Capita, and I'll explain a little bit more about them. And how I've had to really get to the edge of the discipline, the edge of my comfort zone in so many ways, and how I encourage us all to do that. And I think that's what I want to get across in my talk now. This one is, I thought I'd just try and articulate what Capita's about through a person. So this guy's a guy called Martin Prescott. I work with him a lot. He is one of the most successful salespeople in the country. He can sell any service to anybody pretty much. And what he doesn't know about services isn't worth knowing. He's a formidable intellect, and he is one of the reasons why Capita, who are a big outsourcer, by the way, so we run services for other companies, why we're one of the best performing FTSEs in the last 25 years is because of people like him, not because of people like me. I'm having more of a role, but certainly because of people like him. And we run things like British Army Recruitment. So we run recruitment for the British Army, which is a terrifying thing to have to work to do design on, but fascinating. We run the TV licensing service, a bit like the DVLA, but for televisions, essentially. If you've got a TV in this country, you have to have a license, which is a very odd idea, but still there. We also are the biggest provider to O2, so big telecoms company, and we provide all their agent-assisted contact for them. And what we do for these companies is we guarantee them transformational outcomes, which is different from a lot of the other people in our space. So we will say to them, at the beginning of the relationship, here's a check for £980 million of savings, which is essentially what we've given to O2. And then we will guarantee that we will transform their business. What I mean by that is we will transform consumer behaviours. We will move everybody from one channel to another. We will change payment behaviours. We will change loyalty behaviours. So as a designer, it's a fascinating place to be because we don't just write reports. We actually get in and do the delivery work for our clients. Now, one night late on a project around O2, actually, I was working with Martin, and he was really challenging me, and he came up with the best phrase I've had all year, which is, service design fizzles out. And for me, this was just fascinating, because here I was, essentially here, right on the edge, I think, of our discipline. Personas, journeys, different types of research, all of that's on the table. We're sort of unpacked it all, and we're working it hard. And yet I've got someone saying to me, this is fizzling out. And it made me reflect, and I think that's part of what we need to do as an industry at this stage, is reflect on, well, what does that mean? Why are clients still saying that? This is a guy who absolutely gets what we're trying to do, but he wants it to go further, deeper, broader. And that's a good thing. There's a book called Rules of Thumb that I've got on my shelf, which I occasionally get out. One of the rules of thumb that I like is always take no as a question, not as an answer. And that's, for me, what he was saying. He was saying, I want you to go further, but I want you to do it bloody quickly, is what he was basically saying. And I think one of the things that he's challenging me on is that and I've been prone to this in the past, being slightly inside the service design bubble, where we are very excited about what we do, and we kind of get a bit hubristic about it, and we're all about research, and we're all about users, and we're all about personas and journeys, these things that have been important to us and remain important to us, as we heard earlier on. But what he's saying is, there are all these people outside the bubble that you have to engage with if you're going to make this stuff work. Because a service design is not about those things. It's actually about the thing that is consumed and delivered 1,000 times a day, which is what a service is. And you can't just design it in the corner, you have to get out there. You have to get out of the bubble and engage, which can be terrifying, can be exhilarating, and it's one of the reasons I like what I do. So I'm going to go into 3 areas where I think we need to just expand out of our bubble. The first one's about how we connect to the operation. The second one is about how we connect to the numbers. And the third one, how do we connect to the client's pain? And by the client, I don't mean the end customer. I mean the people who sort of pays us to do the work we do, whether it's our boss or our client or what have you. But the first one I'll look at is how we connect to the operation. I think we are very good along this top deck. So we give a full consideration of the design. That's why we're all here. We are designers, and that's what we do. I think actually we need to go deeper, and this is what I'm talking about, go deeper or go home. We need to give full consideration of the business implications of the design. And I think sometimes we expect other people to do that a little bit, that we'll give them the design and they will sort of just imbibe it and go, wow, this just makes, it's common sense to them. We know how empathy works, they see it, they hear our stories, they connect. We've heard some great ones here today. But actually converting that into the change required is very challenging. So we have this horizontal discipline that cuts through, because that's what the customer does, they cut through these organizations. But yet, do we really talk to the vertical nature of our industrial sort of strength businesses that we work in? They're very verticalized, and horizontalism is very challenging for them. Power, money, it all travels top to bottom, and we're saying, well, the customer goes left to right. We have to get better at having that discussion. We have to, I think, sit more in the vertical world than we currently do and see it from their point of view. And I'll go on to the next one. So strategy, for me, is another one. We often talk about what should happen, how things should be, and we're often charged with being idealistic, and this word fluffy occasionally. I'm sure you've heard the word fluffy as a challenge, because we're up here, and I often am told, and Martin says this, don't talk about method. Never talk about process. Talk about how you're going to make the change happen. Talk about the barriers that we're going to overcome. Because as we all know, strategy and culture have this odd relationship. Culture devours strategy, we know that. But why? Because there are so many barriers to strategy. Strategy is a lovely idea. I mean, you look at gov.uk, the barriers that those guys have had to overcome to achieve that are formidable. And you have to face those head on. And those are the cultural changes that we need to sort of get closer to. And then products, and this is, I'm a big one for this, which is I think increasingly clients aren't saying to us, great, you've given me a customer journey, you've given me a brief or a sort of blueprint for what the service should be. They want us to go and change it. Because what we produce is only one part of it. How we go about producing those things is what clients actually want. The process, and we talked about agile earlier, that's a great example. Going into agile design and iterative design, that's where the change happens. And taking that into organizations, it's not giving them a product, it's giving them a service, essentially, which is so we as service designers, I think, need to become sort of design authorities within these businesses. I want to see more design authorities. Service designers who are embedded into large organizations who are responsible for the change across this bottom line. And I think there's a role there that hopefully some of you will go after. I'm starting to try and get more of those into all of our projects, our programs. And there's a big challenge here, which as you go deeper, and this is a challenge I think to everybody, and it's certainly a thing I've had to go through, is this need for grit. The further down you go, deeper into organizations, the more grit you need, because the change required to make all that stuff happen on the bottom tier, you just need loads of grit. And it's a great word, I love it. It's all about determination, knuckling down. And I think we as an industry don't have a reputation for it. And we're surrounded by engineers and consultants and people, officers in local government bodies or central government bodies. They spend 15, 16, 17 years trying to fix things like adult social care. They are way down here. And then often we, I think, turn up at the top and say, we're going to transform this for you. We haven't really earned the rights to say that, and we need to be more down in the depths, earning our wings, if you like, showing that we've got grit. So it's a bit of a pledge for us all to aim further down. And what I mean by that is we need to get our hands dirty. We do need to be more willing to take on change and help our clients through the process. And what I actually mean by that is not this at all, it's this, which is kind of something that designers are terrified. I wear a suit every day of my job. Quite nice not to for a day, but I do because it's a small thing, and I'm trying to focus on that here. It's a soft thing, but wearing a suit we had the anthropology thing on earlier. It's a massively important signifier. If you walk in the room wearing the same clothes as the person you're trying to convert, if you don't, then you're immediately putting another barrier up, and I think I've suggested there are enough barriers already. We probably don't need any more. So small compromises. So getting our hands dirty generally is like things like this actually for us, and we need to do more of that. So how do we connect to the numbers? This one, again, I work in a company that is a numbers-oriented business, run by accountants, big spreadsheets, managing risk, all those sorts of things. And often we think this is what we're about, and we've heard a lot about customer experience. We're about happy customers. We are about happy customers, but we've got to be a bit careful. We do want this, absolutely. We want people to be able to fill out forms and feel like it was just so intuitive and wonderful. I absolutely want that, don't get me wrong. But I think we're very much B2C thinkers. We think about the consumer and the customer more than anything. But we're all in the B2B business because someone has to pay for our work. And the client, I'm just going to generally call them that, worries about the money. That customer experience has to give them a profit. And if it's not, that's a private sector word. A public sector word might be the outcome that they want to achieve. But there's a bottom line in every business, every service provider. And I often think we forget that slightly. Because for me, this is what I'm always going after. I want that happiness line, but I think we've got an enormous opportunity to bring the cost down. And we saw it earlier, Gov.uk, great example of bringing down cost in government. It's not a mistake that Gov.uk has had its big drive during a period of great austerity. This is important stuff, bringing costs down. But it also helps you bring revenue up. Happier customers stay longer. Lower effort customers, good indication of loyalty long term. So I think a lot of what I do, and the way I describe it to people like Martin and others, is that I create the conditions for profitable customer behaviours. And I think that's really what service design is about for me. And it may not be profitable if you're talking about health outcomes. That could be the behaviour you want to get. Whatever the behaviour is, we're trying to create the conditions for that. And when I look at this graph, I often think, everyone talks about Apple. For me, the organisation that really nails this sort of stuff is Amazon and Jeff Bezos, people, someone like that, who I think for him, he says he's very customer-centred. I believe that. He's not really that interested in customer experience, which may be a controversial statement. I think he's very, very profit-focused. I mean, horrendously so. And I actually think that happy customers are a byproduct of that profit focus. And we as service designers need to recognise that our clients are very profit-focused and we can help them to achieve that. And the byproduct is you get these great happy customers. And this one came out yesterday as well, actually. So why don't we have client personas on our walls? We're really good at remaining in touch with our consumers, the end user. But we've got to remind ourselves what the clients are looking for out of our work. And I think sometimes we lose it and we talk a lot about the end user experience. So just a small reminder there. And then this one about clients' pain. So for me, I think we're missing a trick as an industry. We've always, well, let me go straight into it actually. We've traditionally, this isn't our world, but this is the world that a lot of clients see and know. And this is a CEO, obviously got no hair, very stressful job, CEO. And I certainly come across a lot of this, which is this sort of reactive approach to change. Like we'll get some feedback in and maybe a few complaints and we'll have a look at it. We'll do some incremental changes around the edges. And we'll get some cost of supply down, maybe some moderate savings, those sorts of things. Very low risk, very dull, and doesn't actually deliver big transformational change. And we all know this. I think this is, in a way, the enemy of what we do. We're trying to move things on. But what we tend to do, I think, is go all the way up to the other end, which is the service innovation end of the spectrum, which is proactive, absolutely. We're looking for new opportunities to radically step change how things work. It is about anticipated savings, innovation. I know we do a lot of risk reduction through prototyping and those sorts of things, and we saw some good examples earlier, but it's still risky for these guys. There's a classic CEO line of, the 3 guaranteed ways to lose money are gambling, divorce, and innovation. And, there is a bit of that in the sense that it's a kind of a sexy, scary thing. Oh, yeah, I want innovation, but how the hell do I deal with it? And it's a very hard sell, I think, for us as an industry. But yet we do spend a lot of time there. I'm not saying that we shouldn't spend time there. But what I am encouraging us to think more about is this middle ground, which I call radical service improvement, which is, well, I think it's essential. And I have clients falling over themselves to try and fix this. So for me, this is the stuff that just doesn't work in our lives, services that are just broken and that people are continually falling off of the service and having to take really expensive customer service. So it's still very radical, and the way we approach this and the different methods we've heard of already, it's a very innovative way. Radical service improvement is totally different from that one on the left. It is very innovative in the way you go about change. It's just not as glamorous. You don't come out with the sexy, innovative stuff. But what you do come out with is massively improved cost basis. You're basically saving a lot of money because you're not having to deal with all the failure demand. And it's medium risk because, we go after this, we look at what tasks the customer's trying to do, we work out what the high volume ones are, where they're driving the failure, and we go in and we fix them. And I'll tell you one thing, if you do the middle one, they'll love you forever, clients, but also they'll give you the keys to the right-hand side. They'll give you the keys to service innovation. And, if you do the middle one right, you're going to work out what the innovation opportunities are anyway, because you do a good piece of service design work, pulling out all the challenge there, and you'll actually identify the unmet needs as well. And so for me, just unpacking it a little bit, this radical service improvement bit is about getting into this failure demand. That 25 to 75 Kerry will probably have a go at me because I haven't got a footnote against that. But hey, it's a bit broad anyway. But most of the businesses that I work with have a huge, they cause their own pain. You get a letter from the hospital telling you to go for an appointment that you can't make the time. They've just assumed that you're free at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. And so you have to phone them, and then that call costs them money. We've all got examples of how those services work. And getting rid of that stuff, making services just work, is not necessarily innovative and exciting and glamorous, but absolutely where I think a lot of clients are. And then getting that demand to the lowest cost channel, that's channel shift, and God, everybody wants channel shift these days. I think we've got a role there. It's just a contact behaviour that we're trying to change there. Everyone's dressed it up as this sort of almost, sort of alchemic thing that, that turning base things into gold. It's just changing contact behaviours. And then handling it right first time. Those three things, there are people out there who are willing to just spend money to get those things fixed. And I think we have the answer there. And for me, again, I summarise that as, helping the customer do what we need them to do in a way that they want to do it. Which is, some people feel that's a bit manipulative, but, we're designers, we're slightly in the manipulation game, we shouldn't shy away from that. Our clients want us to do that, I often find. Let's not hesitate too much around that. So those are my 3 points, really, that I think we all need to go deeper. And actually, we've been offered, I have people saying, encouraging, come on, do more, go further. And we need to be quite comfortable standing on the edge and willing to lean into that challenge and reach out to other disciplines. When you get challenges around numbers, and I certainly do, there are other people in the businesses around you that you should be reaching out to get that answered. We can't answer everything ourselves, and we need to rely on others more, and people are willing to do that. And that's the second one, really. Whenever I see customer journeys, we talked about earlier, I love to see numbers on journeys, scaling that journey up to show me what it is going to be, but also put pound or dollar signs or whatever your currency is on there as well, because we don't get traction with journeys with everybody. You get them with certain people and everyone can empathise with them. But you start putting financial numbers on there and people start paying attention. It's amazing how it happens. And if you can apply that to the analytics as well, you can scale that up. Suddenly you've got a business case that customer journey, if delivered like that, will deliver you X. Savings, revenue increases, better customer experience, those sorts of things. We really have to be better at that. And then the third one is those client pain points. Don't just go for innovation. I think innovation is great and we all want to work up there, and I do as well. But I think that middle ground, less glamorous, is a huge opportunity for us where we need more creative brains. And as customers, we're all dying to have services that just work better. And I'm surrounded by clients who want to make those things work better. So those are my 3 pledges, and that's the end of my session. One last question. I was asked to leave on a question, and that is my question. And again, it's about reaching out the bubble. So where do we fizzle out? Increasingly, I think that's the question I'm asking myself, rather than patting ourselves on the back, which we've done for a few years. Aren't we great? We're the next best thing. We are the best thing at the moment. I think we're at the top table. So we have to ask ourselves these questions and push on. Thank you very much.